Benvenuti a tutti, and welcome to another edition of Italian America, Long Island. My name is Dave Anthony Ducati. Tonight we have two very, very nice guests. He is the president of the Order Sons and Daughters of Italy in America. So will you please welcome Anthony and Mary Naccarato. Great to have you on the show,
Thank
Tony.
you very much.
Hi, Mary.
Nice to meet you.
I know it was quite difficult for you to get here this morning, so thank you for coming. And Anthony, you have that unique qualification. You were born in Italy. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, absolutely. I am the New York State president of Order Sons and Daughters of Italy in America. I just want to clarify, it's New York State. I was born in 1946, and I came to the United States in 1955 with 5 siblings and my mother and father. We came to Brownsville, New York, and it was very difficult because I came from a little town in southern Calabria called Fiumicino, which means Coal River. Mm-hmm. Now, having grown up in a little town that was pretty much a town that you can walk around when you're 5, 6 years old. You knew everybody. There were no cars. There was no buses. So all of a sudden, I'm in Brooklyn, in Brownsville, in a 6-story walk-up in 3 rooms. I was like a caged tiger.
Oh.
I was not happy at all.
Right.
But my parents decided to come to America for the opportunity. 1946 was right after the war, and things in southern Italy were not very good. My mother and father decided to unify the family because my grandmother, my maternal grandmother, and my maternal grandfather lived in America. So we decided that we would come to America. My parents decided. It wasn't my decision.
Right.
But the things were not very good in the beginning. I didn't speak English, and I went to the 4th grade. Now, walking into a 4th class in October, can't say a word of English. You don't understand what's going on. You imagine everybody's making fun of you, and sometimes they were. Yeah. So I found myself in a very bad predicament.
And this is before they had all of these ESL programs. There was absolutely no program to help an immigrant.
No, nothing.
None at all. None at all. There wasn't. And but you know, I was very, very fortunate. In my entire life, I've been the kind of person that, for whatever reason, I've always had somebody to help me. And I say that with full belief because it's the same in my business. I've been very fortunate in my business also. But Mrs. Wolf, I'll never forget her name. I'm going back 64 years ago. And I've never forgotten her name, and I repeat her name all the time. May she rest in peace. But she decided that I was in trouble, and she was going to do something about it. So every day, she made me understand that I stayed behind for an hour. And no overtime for her. There was no benefit to her other than to help another human being. And she worked with me, and she started out with a 1st grade book, see Spot Run. Mm-hmm. And she worked with me. Within 6 months, I was able to get by. Within a year, I was speaking English fluently.
Isn't it amazing? And God bless that teacher.
The feeling that somebody cared, because it was pretty difficult. And from that moment on, that she started to help me, things improved. Because once I was able to understand what was going on, I became...
I got more confident.
I became more confident. But things were difficult because it's very hard. I was, at this point, about 10 and a half years old. And it's very hard to be your parents' interpreter. Yeah. My mother and father didn't speak a word of English. And they didn't have the ability to go to school. My father was a shoemaker, my mother was a homemaker. We lived in a 6-story walk-up. There were 8 of us in 3 rooms.
Wow.
I slept in the kitchen for 4 years. And,
boy.
So things were difficult. So everywhere we went, I was the interpreter. And my father was a very smart and proud man. I found that very difficult.
Yeah, well, what I've noticed in my experience in talking to people who have immigrated from Italy, if you stay in Italy once you're past the high school age, once you're past 18, it's very, very difficult for you to learn English. And if you do succeed in learning English, which many people do, very often they have a thick Italian accent. So Anthony, you're very fortunate in that you speak Italian and you also are very fluent in English. And not only that, but you also write very well. I know you've written articles for the Golden Lion. Why don't you tell us a little bit about the Golden Lion, what it is and what you wrote?
Well, the Golden Lion is the newspaper for the New York State Order Sons and Daughters of Italy in America. And the newspaper tries to pass on information to its members. We have approximately 7,000 members throughout New York State. And if you include the families of the members, we're probably about 20,000 people that have access to this newspaper throughout New York State. And we try to pass on information. We have an article that comes from the president and myself, but we also have an article that comes out from the CSJ, the Commission for Social Justice, every month, which speaks about bias and bigotry against Italian Americans. We have a section where somebody gives recipes, which again is a very big thing in the Italian community. We have special writers that write every month on particular subjects. I'd like to ask people to write articles that of special interest. Like I happen to ask you today if you could write an article about this show itself and how it got started and what you hope to accomplish with it.
I'm very excited about that possibility, and I will get started on that as soon as possible. Worthy President. One of the articles that you did, one of the biggest articles you did, was on what the state organization does for the individual lodges and membership. Why don't you tell us, what does the state do for the individual lodges and the individual memberships?
Well, when I became president on June 1st, 2018, from the podium I said that I will tackle a problem that's been going on in the order since I've been in the order, it's just 40 years. I joined in 1978. And that is, what does the Grand Lodge do for us and what does the National do for us? And it always stuck in my mind, and I said, I'm going to do something about it. So I decided to write an article and put it on page 1. Normally the president's message is on page 3. And what the Grand Lodge does, it's a unifier of the Italian culture and the national. There are many Italian-American organizations, like in the town of Oysterberg where I live, there's an Italian-American club. And that's what it is, it's a club. And there's about 150 people that belong to it. And they're a very good organization. They do a lot of good in the community, and they have a lot of fun. They own their own building. But they don't have the gravitas of having the ability to be a national organization. By belonging to the Grand Lodge in New York and the National, we're a national organization. We're able to accomplish things that a small lodge, you can have 1,000 throughout the country, but unless they're working together, then they don't have the ability to accomplish the kind of things that we need to do. Recently, we got the mayor of New Orleans to apologize to Italian Americans for the lynching in 1891. Well, that was done by the ability of the national and the various states working together. In 1891, 11 men were lynched in the city of New Orleans. They were accused of killing the police chief, and they went to trial. They were found innocent, and that night, with the complicity of the city fathers, they were allowed to break into the jail and lynch all of them, including a 14-year-old boy. Again, we were able to do that as a large organization. Now, on a local level, my wife Mary is the gift of sight chairperson, and we do that throughout the state. And she's able to raise enough money to be able to give money to a variety of organizations, which I will let her speak for herself. We have Coolies Anemia. We've been able to help the Coolies Anemia. Coolies Anemia, our donation, the Sons of Italy, the national organization and the local state organizations, have donated over $2 million to the. Then we have a variety of other cultural events, again tied into the Sons of Italy. Then we have a museum in Staten Island, the Garibaldi Meucci Museum. in the Garibaldi Meucci Museum was Antonio Meucci, who was the true inventor of the telephone. I know in school they teach Alexander Graham Bell. In the 1980s, the United States Congress specifically put out a proclamation that Antonio Meucci had a great influence on the production of the telephone. The truth of the matter is that Alexander Graham Bell took the invention of Meucci and actually made it his own.
Yes, I understand that Meucci brought it to AT&T, and who happened to be one of the chief engineers there but Alexander Graham Bell.
Exactly.
That's a very fascinating story in itself. But just to recap what you said about what the upper levels of this organization does. You protect Italians from the discrimination and from the injustices that we have suffered in the past, which, by the way, is still going on today.
Yes, unfortunately.
Unfortunately, we do have some things that happen, and I know you fight the stereotypes against Italians. We have the protection of the culture. That was another thing that you mentioned with the museum. And then we also have the wonderful charitable things. I know, Mary, you're involved in this gift site. Would you like to tell us a little about that?
Certainly, I'd love to. So I am the chairperson for the committee of the gift site, which is under the umbrella of the New York State Sons and Daughters of Italy. And basically we raise funds to assist people that are visually impaired or blind. And we donate scholarships to a blind child. And right now we're working with Vision Center. There is one in New York and there's one upstate. And we offer 2 scholarships to children to attend a special camp where they and their families are able to go along with their siblings. And they do different things as far as educating the families itself on blindness. And the children learn computer skills and other things. We also donate to the veterans groups throughout the state. And we hold our kind of signature event is called the Helen Keller Day Camp, which we have every July, the end of July. And it's the children from the Helen Keller Center, the Sons and Daughters of Italy, sponsor a day for them. And it's our way of giving back to the community. And every year we have like between 50 and 60 children attend. Usually it's at Eisenhower Park. And there we have giant blow-ups and a pony ride, petting zoo, a clown, a magician, a lot of things for the children to enjoy. Actually, Tony does Italian trivia. And then we treat them to pizza, and they always love the garlic nuts. And it's really festive. And then at the end of the day, we have an ice cream truck. And they're able to enjoy whatever it is that, they choose to have.
The gift of sight has been traditionally one of the charities supported by the Sons of Italy?
Yes, it's actually considered, they say it's one of the jewels of OSDIA. The one being the Commission for Social Justice, the Garibaldi Meucci Museum, and the Gift of Sight.
I guess a matter of pride for this organization that women have had such an important role since the very founding of the order. Because everything now is about women taking so much more of an important role in the United States of America and everyday life, and getting credit for all of the things that they do and all of the things that they've contributed to society. And I believe we're soon going to have, or do we have, a national president who is a woman?
Right now we have Nancy DeFiore Quinn, who's a woman. The prior national was also a woman, Vera Girolamo. So there's 2 women in a row. There's been,
Well, Nancy's from Per Sempre Ladies Lodge.
in Lynbrook, New York.
In Lynbrook, okay.
So she's a New Yorker. We've had, obviously, presidents that have been women from New York State. We've had Nancy DeFiore Quinn. We had Carolyn Reyes. And the next person that will replace me will be Michelle Ment from up in Carmel, New York. She'll be the next president. So women are a big part. My own lodge, Giuseppe Verdi Lodge in Syosset, was a male lodge for many, many years. Mm-hmm. And in 2007, we decided to go co-ed. And Mary became the first female president.
Wonderful.
Of Giuseppe Verdi. And I will say this to you, Dave, without them, we would have been gone. They saved the lodge.
Yeah, I know.
There's no question.
I know in my lodge, if we didn't have the women that we have, the lodge would be gone because they do all the work. They do all the work, and they're wonderful organizers, and they have wonderful events that they plan for us. Of course, with the council, the men do get a little bit of a say also, but it's great to have them in there. So that's a wonderful thing.
I think we were always in the background, assisting and all, but now we have more leadership roles. You can become president and take part in all the committees, so we've made it now.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. Now, I'd like to talk about, in general, OSDIA, because you had made a comment before, Anthony, that there are so many different Italian organizations, and you cited the club in Syosset, the Italian American Club, but that's just like a standalone club. So, of the national organizations of Italian Americans, what makes OSDIA different?
We're a grassroots operation. You have other very worthwhile Italian American organizations. I would never, say anything bad about them because they're very, very good. You have someone like Unico, you have a variety, Columbia Citizen Foundation, you have NIAF, and they're very good Italian American organizations. They do a lot of good, but they're not grassroots. We are the only ones that actually have lodges. Mm-hmm. We have 61 throughout New York State, and pretty much in every community. And I know you're from the Solero Lodge and from Smithtown, and I always say that any community that happens to have the Sons of Italy Lodge, the Daughters of Italy Lodge in their community is very lucky, because we donate a lot of time and energy and money to the community. We do that through scholarships, and then we do that through help in a variety of ways in various groups. I know right now we have the Galileo Lodge in Hicksville. For the last 10 years they've been sending packages to troops, and they literally get together a few times a year, 20 or 30 of them, and they make packages. Hundreds of packages, from toothpaste to toothbrushes, socks and so on. So these are the kinds of things that we do. We're a grassroots operation. Now, again, Unico is a great organization, but they're a foundation.
Yeah.
We have a foundation also that gives scholarships and so on, but we're a grassroots operation. My lodge in Syosset, we're about 70 people, but we contribute to the community. We're not a big lodge, but we give out 2 scholarships every year. I was very fortunate last week. I went to Syosset High School with Lou Gallo. You know,
yes.
Lou Gallo is a former CSJ chairman, and he has a presentation that he does, History in a Box.
Yes, yeah.
And when we got there, I was pleasantly surprised to find out that they have 14 Italian classes. Now, I know we're having a tough time trying to keep Italian language in schools. To have Syosset with 14 was really amazing. And Lou gave his presentation. And as I was sitting there, I was truly amazed at what I was seeing. As I looked at the audience, 1/3 of the audience were Asians. And I asked the teacher later, I said, I find that rather interesting. I would think it would be, Italian students taking it. And I have a picture that I took, and the Korean, Chinese, Indian. Now, why would they be taking Italian?
Well, it's funny that you bring this up, because I just read a very interesting article. I do go to Italian classes at Stony Brook for the Center of Italian Studies, and they give us articles as part of the lesson. And this one article was on the ethnic makeup of modern Italy. Years ago, Italy was all homogeneous. It was just Italians. But now, as with almost every nation on earth, there's so many different types of people, and there has to be between 5 and 12% Asians in Italy that are considered Italians. And I know when Paula and I went to Italy, we went into a little shop, and there was an Asian cashier. who spoke fluent Italian, but she was Italian. She's just, her ethnicity was Asian, but she was born in Italy. And of course now with, I guess every country in the world is becoming so much more mixed.
Yeah.
So much more mixed as we see it in the United States. But we are the leaders of that.
Well, we started that.
Right.
When I left, everybody was Italian, everybody was Catholic, everybody spoke Italian, and everybody was white. I never saw anybody that was different until I came to America.
Yeah, right, America, right.
Everybody was just us.
Yeah. I wanted to say this. Paula and I are going to be going to Italy in 2020. So I'm doing a little research about the village that my grandfather came from. So I went on the website of the village, and there it is, little San Fele in province of, Basilicata. And there it has all the information about the town, and they list the patron saint of the town on the official government website, which is something that we'd never do in the United States.
Right.
Right, everything is so separated here. But so when you say everybody was Catholic, everybody is Italian.
We said the Hail Mary every morning in school. There was a crucifix up on the.
But it was a government school.
It was a government school. Yes, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
But there was a crucifix there. But the Brooklyn College recently decided to. Use a nice word, to remove Italian from their program. And I wrote a letter, and along with John Frada, the head of the CSJ, and I explained to them something that probably most people don't know. I said to them, you have to understand that Italy is not a minor country, neither is it a minor language. Italy is the 8th industrial power in the world. Most Italians don't realize that.
So it's a lot more powerful than people think.
It's a lot. It is a lot more powerful than they think. It is the 8th, not only the 8th industrial power, but it's the 8th military power in the world. That's the largest army. It also, and this I found the most interesting of all. To this day, 10% of the scientific papers come out of a country of only 62 million people.
Well, you do think of Italy, and you think of art. You think of Michelangelo, you think of the great artists, but then you also had the great scientific minds, Da Vinci, Galileo, Enrico Fermi in the modern age. I mean, all of these wonderful, wonderful minds. Talking about Italy, though, I know you have some wonderful photos that you took on a recent trip back to your home with your family.
Yes.
Do you have them on your phone? Would you like to show me some of these wonderful things?
I do.
These are terrific. They're absolutely terrific.
My hometown was built approximately 1,000 years ago, and the main church is about 800 years old, and they call it Chiesa Madre, Mother Church, and it is an absolutely wonderful, wonderful place to live. I'm going to show you a picture of myself when I came from Italy.
Look at this. Look at this beautiful guy.
I was 9 years old.
Look at this. Wow.
And I actually pulled this out of a passport picture that I have. And this was my father. Obviously, he was in the Italian army.
Yeah. He looks like a movie star. He's a good-looking guy.
He was.
Very handsome man.
He died when he was 92, so he lived quite a number of years, and he was in the variety of this picture.
That's your family.
That's my family. Now, what's missing from this picture is my twin brothers and sisters, who were only 6 months old at the time.
Oh.
They were born in April of 1955, and we came in October. Now, you have to realize that this picture, my mother's 30 years old, and she has 6 children.
Wow.
Today, somebody has a child and they need a nanny and sings.
And a big support system.
And a big support system.
Yeah.
This is when I graduated high school.
Wow.
I went to Erasmus High School. I'm sure some of the viewers will remember Erasmus High School. And
what strikes me when you see photos from the past of high school graduates today, they really look like kids. But in the past, they looked so mature,
Yes, they did.
so responsible. They were men, they were women. You know, the maturity levels, I think, were so much greater. Now, maybe that's because the lifespan is getting longer and longer. So, you know, when you're 18, back in the year 1950, you know, that was a big part of your life, but now you're 18, it's probably
And,
much...
and many just went into work and you know, you were an adult. And now the children now are raised differently.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, Mary is a perfect person for to be the Gift Site chairperson because she's an occupational therapist.
Oh.
She was the director of rehab for many years at a rehab center.
Mm-hmm.
So, while I'm looking for the pictures, Mary, you can explain your background.
Well, also I have my brother, who is now deceased, had to have an eye removed when he was 21.
Oh my God.
And so, and then I worked with a lot of blind people,
Yeah.
patients. So being visually impaired is very close to my heart, and it's something that I'm able to understand. And sometimes I've connected with other therapy departments, like at the Veterans Hospital.
Mm-hmm.
And we made donations there, more specific for that population. Because as a profession, I have the gist of it.
Yes, I can see that. So this is, you found the photo.
This is actually my hometown, and the blue is the Mediterranean
Look
Sea.
at the beautiful. Oh, that is
And we're
gorgeous.
706 feet high. And
Where was this, in Calabria?
in Calabria, right on the Mediterranean. And from my window, you can see 50 miles in each direction. You can actually see Stromboli which is between Calabria and Sicily on a clear day, because we're 700 feet high, and obviously Stromboli is very high.
Right.
You cannot see Sicily, and this is a picture of the actual castle.
There was a castle in your
In
town.
my town, within walking distance of my house. When I say walking distance, I'm talking about 2 minutes. And I would spend my whole time, it had a cistern, and we would swim in it. And it was destroyed by the French in 1806. They were in war with Italy. So it was kind of a very difficult time to go from a town like that
To go to Brooklyn.
to go to Brooklyn.
Our granddaughters were amazed. They had never seen that type of environment. The cobblestone streets,
Yeah.
the areas where the cars could not,
Yeah.
get through. And just the thing, it's, the whole town on a hill,
Mm-hmm. and
they were just
this was a
mesmerized.
walled town.
Yes,
Completely
yes.
walled
Because
in.
you had a photograph in there of the wall, the arch and the doorway.
A doorway which they would close at night from the Marauders, and they would close it at night. It's not closed anymore.
Yeah.
And then it was completely walled, and on the other side, the Mediterranean side, is pretty much a sheer cliff.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why the French during the war, the only thing they could do is bombard. They couldn't come up the sides.
Right.
And the other strange thing about it, when I took my grandchildren, the streets were all in and out, in and out, in and out. There's not a straight street in the
Right.
whole area. And my granddaughter said to me, "Grandpa, why didn't they just build straight streets?" I said, "Because if the enemies managed to get into the town, they would find themselves lost. They wouldn't have a clear path. And on top of that, they would have people boiling oil and throwing them out the window at the soldiers, and then trapping them in there.
Mhm.
So they
wanted to make it difficult
they
to get around.
to get around. So once they got in, they wouldn't be able to get out. They were pretty
Wow.
much trapped.
Yeah.
I hadn't been in my hometown for a long time, but I was going through it like I had left the day before. It's a great town.
Well, Anthony, I gotta say, it was a wonderful way to spend a little time here tonight with you and your lovely wife to get a little flavor of Italy that you bring, which I think is so great for our organization, because sometimes we forget what we're about, and you really have connected OSDIA to Italy's roots, and I wish you the best for all of your goals and what you want to accomplish in your tenure as president. And thank you so much for being on the show. It's a
Thank you
pleasure.
very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.